This is Christopher John Bjerknes. It is March 2nd, 2025. What we are seeing on the world stage today is globalism being implemented in the name of multipolarity. And we're seeing dramatic theater of the old tactic of good cop, bad cop. If you're not familiar with that, it's the idea that when a witness, or not a witness, but a suspect, is being interrogated by the police, they'll first send in a very abusive, violent cop making all kinds of threats against the person who's being accused and trying to scare that person so that he's frightened of the bad cop. And then a good cop intervenes and honors the rights of the accused and tries to become his friend and ingratiates himself into that person's trust in that way. And then the accused confesses everything to the good cop, believing that things will go easier on him and that the bad cop won't be unleashed on him again. But both cops are obviously working to prosecute and set up the accused so that they have his own testimony against him in court. And that's what they're doing with the nations of the world. As Anatoly Golitsyn revealed, China and Russia often pretend to be at odds with one another and opposed to one another so that they can manipulate the West in their alliances. One side will align with one country as the good cop, and then the other one will play the role of the bad cop, and then they rope them all in to the international communist globalist government. So Trump and Putin, for the Americans, play the good cop, and they are now in alliance with one another because Trump is a treacherous Chabadnik Jew, as is Vladimir Putin. And they're portraying now Zelenskyy and Xi Jinping as the bad cop from the perspective of Americans and Russians, to a much lesser extent to Russians. So they're playing this game. They're trying to get America to align with Russia, and they're trying to get Europe and Canada, which view Zelenskyy and Xi Jinping now as the good cop, and Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin as the bad cop. So the script is flipped depending upon how the alliances are meant to line up. But the end game is that once America is roped into becoming officially Russia's ally, and Europe and what is referred to as the global north of Europe, Canada, and Japan get roped into the Chinese corral, those two are then going to merge, and you'll have a universal global government. And there's a third entity in all of this, which is referred to as the global south. And you can see that merging in the global south, where Russia and China are openly allies and are aligning all of the countries against the West. NATO and the West was always vastly superior to the Soviets and China and the global south. So they had to bring down the West to put them all into parity. And then in order to bring the West into the fold, they had to divide and conquer the West. So they divided the West between Russia and China, and they made for the Westerners, the good cops, Putin and Trump in America, and for the Westerners in Europe, Canada, and their alliance with Japan, they're making the good cop Xi Jinping and Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Now, all of this was engineered and expressed by Mao Zedong, who created this three-world theory. So we're all being played, and the end game is to bring us all into one world government. The communists often do that through a series of revolutions and world wars, so they are heading us towards a third world war. Mao Zedong established the idea that America and Russia, the first world, were the two superpowers. Trump has now betrayed the West and made them an alliance, whereas during the Cold War they were opposed, and set up the system of mutually assured destruction. And now the global North, which was Western Europe, Canada, and Japan and their allies, are now being driven to become aligned with China in their defense against Russia and America, the alliance, the axis of Russia and America. But behind the scenes, of course, all of these are being manipulated by the same powers. And we see that in the fact that Trump and Putin are aligned with Chabad Lubavitch, and China is aligned with both Russia and America and China. Though many people claim that Putin is a great strategist and master chess player and great genius, and that Trump is playing 5D chess, and that Xi Jinping is very brilliant, and that Zelenskyy is also a great master of war, the reason it appears that way to many people is because all of these treacherous snakes are agents and actors controlled by the same higher powers. They are all following the same script to bring about the end result. So when Putin does something, everyone else plays along in order to fulfill the script. And Putin is simply reading his lines, as are all the others. These are not brilliant people. All of this can be easily defeated if some kind of authentic opposition is established against it. That authentic opposition will have to have great, tremendous military powers. We will need to capture all of the most brilliant people in the world and get them on our side and develop the weaponry that will be necessary to defend a new society against this globalist empire whose ultimate aim is to exterminate all of us. So let's watch how this theater is playing out on the world stage. We just had Trump playing bad cop against good cop Zelenskyy. Now, Trump was aligning himself with Putin, who is also meant to be perceived as the bad cop in this drama. Perceived by whom? Perceived by NATO allies other than America, perceived by Western Europe, Canada, Australia, Japan, that they are trying to divide the West and pit us against one another. So Trump plays the bad cop and yells and is abusive and violent towards Zelenskyy. That is to have the good cop, China, step in and be the advocate for Zelenskyy and rope in the entire Western alliance, except for America, who is now the enemy of the Western alliance and aligned with Soviet Russia. And so I'm sure most of you have seen this, but let's watch it one more time.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait
answer?
a minute. No, you've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
So pay attention to the fact that this is exactly the way a police interrogation goes down. Zelenskyy is playing the role of the accused criminal. He's being portrayed by Trump as a criminal, as a dictator, as a war criminal who instigated a war when they were obviously attacked by the Russians. So this is seen by the rest of the world outside of America and by at least half of America as Trump betraying the West and becoming the enemy of the West and being aligned with Vladimir Putin. So Trump is playing the role of the bad cop. So the good cop is preparing to step in, and that good cop is going to be Xi Jinping to persuade the alleged criminal who's actually innocent, Zelenskyy, and to persuade Starmer and the Germans and the Italians, all of Western Europe, Canada, whom Trump has also attacked viciously and with threats which are essentially aggressive threats of war against Canada, a trade war, and the Japanese and the Australians to perceive Trump and Putin as the enemy and the enemy in alliance. They have now taken the first world of the superpowers, as Mao defined them, of Russia and America, and made them allies. So this is one part of this trifecta that is leading us towards global government in the name of the multipolarity of these supposed three separate forces whose strings are all pulled from the top by the same people. And you know exactly who those people are. So this is a scripted good cop, bad cop scenario. Zelenskyy is supposedly a criminal being accused by the bad cop, Trump, of being a dictator and starting a war and refusing to go along with peace.
We gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about West
if you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yeah.
So there you see the linkage, Trump and Putin towing the same line, Trump issuing the Kremlin script, Trump aligning himself in an alliance with Soviet Russia as the bad cop and falsely accusing this man and portraying him as a criminal. This is classic scripted good cop, bad cop. This could be a Hollywood movie from the 30s.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this, I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times thank you to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media.
Notice the language, litigate those disagreements. This is a cop situation, and the bad cop always pretends that he's trying to be so good to the criminal and get him out of trouble if only he'll confess. But he's abusive and insulting and violent, so that the good cop can then step in and say, well, we'll go easy on you if you help us out, and I'll keep these other guys from kicking your teeth in if you join with me, and then we'll get this done in court, and you'll get out much easier if you cooperate. And the language was explicitly litigate.
Media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on out here. I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long.
That right there tells you that this is a staged performance that he wants portrayed before the American people so that he can establish this alliance of America and Russia against America's own best interests. This vicious stab in the back to Ukraine and to Western Europe, the vicious stab in the back to Canada. And he is threatening Canada with the idea that China is going to attack Canada and only America can save Canada from China. Trump has always positioned himself as being supposedly anti-Chinese when he has been helping China consistently screw over the West and America, and he has been helping North Korea and Russia. But in this classic communist tactic, he is pretending that there's a divide between Russia and China when they are one and the same international communist globalist body.
You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards.
Thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't please,
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers.
The bad cop always says, we have all kinds of evidence against you. This is an open and shut case. You better confess, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the performance that's being given by Trump as the bad cop.
It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what-
that
what
wasn't
this
with me.
nation- it
That was
wasn't
with
with you.
a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person.
But this
That
is
was
your,
with,
this
that was
is
with
your
Obama.
president. It was your president.
Excuse me.
You see again how even among American presidents, we're seeing this scripted role of good cop, bad cop, with Biden playing the role of the good cop and Trump playing the role of the bad cop from the perspective of Western Europe and Ukraine and their allies, but from the perspective of MAGA and the Vatniks and the libertarian traitors against America. It seems that Zelenskyy and China are the bad cop and Trump and Putin are the good cop. So it's a mirror image that ultimately produces the same end goal of driving a wedge in the Western alliance and making America aligned with Soviet Russia and Western Europe and Canada and their allies aligned with Red China to bring them all into the international communist fold. And they can so weaken it so that there will be no reversing this by engaging in nuclear war and a third world war. And they are setting up these two powers. People don't realize that the communists love war, love permanent war and permanent revolution. That has been the policy at least since Marx. Parvis pushed that idea. Trotsky pushed that idea. That is this ongoing permanent war, permanent revolution where they control both sides. And again, it's not that they're brilliant strategists. It's that every side is going along and fulfilling the same script so that it produces the same end result. If there were someone authentic, some nation, some group of people that genuinely opposed this and didn't follow this script, these idiots could be easily defeated because one of their aims is for everyone to consume and destroy one another. So an authentic dissent and opposition to all this, which instead built itself up and recruited and tapped all the best people from all these countries to provide an opposition to this, we would be building ourselves up as they tore themselves down. And all we would have to do is wait for them to be so weak, become so weak through their own machinations, that we could then overwhelm them with our power.
That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins.
Now, that's true and a very important point. Obama allowed Russia to move into the Arctic without any opposition. He allowed Putin to take Crimea with absolutely zero opposition. Obama sabotaged any effort to build an alliance against Russia. He sabotaged any effort to kick them out of the SWIFT banking system before they could build up their war chest. He enabled them to build up their war chest, and he subverted NATO and every other attempt to defeat Russia. Russia was allowed to instigate an insurgency with Russian special forces in the Donbass. All this happened in 2014. I was saying where this was heading. I was saying that Obama is treasonous. He is defeating NATO. He is defeating the United States and destroying the Western alliance. So even though they pretend they're good cop, bad cop in terms of Ukraine, they are both ultimately out to subvert the United States, to make it allies with the Russians, and to pit us as a division, a wedge within NATO and within the Western alliance against one another so that we destroy one another. And Biden and NATO, when Russia invaded Ukraine and headed towards Kyiv, they said consistently, Stoltenberg and Biden and all the European leaders said consistently that we don't want Ukraine to win. We don't want Russia defeated. And they made a half-ass support effort, giving them a trickle of weapons and munitions, always delayed, always substandard. They put all kinds of restrictions on their use, and they said they were doing this so that Ukraine could not defeat Russia. And now we see the ultimate end of this, where Trump is saying that Russia has to win the war and Ukraine has to surrender and capitulate and give up territory and give up its resources to both Russia and the United States, who are now allies. It's the most vicious, treacherous, evil thing I've ever witnessed.
You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you,
And the bad cop puts a gun to the head of the accused supposed criminal and tells him he's thankful that he's not getting his brains blown out. It's a threat, and it's a insistence upon submission. And again, this is like a bad movie from the 30s to the 50s. It's
you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards, but without.
He's even trying to talk in that same classic language of Hollywood, of the bad cop.
Us, you don't have any cards.
So now, as I knew would happen, we're entering into this phase where Europeans, Western Europeans, where the Ukrainians, where the Canadians, the Australians, the Japanese, are being misled to believe that China and Russia are at odds and that they should align themselves with China in order to defend themselves from the axis of America and Russia. And again, from the top, all these leaders' strings are pulled by the same people, so they all go along with it. It's not that they're stupid, it's not that they're naive, and it's not that they're in genuine opposition to one another. They are enabling all of this by going along with the same script, whereas if they were genuinely opposed to it, they could very easily, America and NATO could wipe out Russia. America and our economy could wipe out the Chinese very easily together with Europe. That's why they're ripping America and Europe apart. America and Europe are unstoppable. And can you imagine if a genuine Eurocentric governments were instituted in America, throughout Europe, and in Russia, we would control the vast majority of nuclear weapons in the world and could easily defeat China and the global South and build about a just world, a world of peace, not controlled by these same figures at the very top. But people are too stupid and gullible to understand that, even though I explain that in my book, E equals MC squared and the Jewish Agenda, which was immediately banned by Amazon. It was my first officially banned book. But that would be wonderful. But that's not going to happen. So instead, we have to do that undercover through the back door by establishing a new country, which effectively does that with a superior generation of weapons engineered by all the disgruntled people who realize that everything is being sabotaged and we're being destroyed from within and without with this communist fifth column and Trojan horse of Donald Trump. And then at the same time, Europe being coaxed into aligning with communist red China. It's horrendous. They are setting us up to exterminate us. And this is the complete defeat of America and the West. And it's being engineered as part of this ancient script of destroying the Leviathan with the behemoth and then setting about to exterminate the behemoth, as I've explained so many times. If you guys go to my website, CJBBooks.com. There are links to my social media accounts where you can see all my videos on this. Look for things about the fight between the Leviathan and the Behemoth, and talking about Alexander Dugin, the Atlanticists and the Eurasianists, etc. All of this is being set up now as a good cop, bad cop script to separate the West into America aligning with Russia and Western Europe aligning with China. You can also find my books there. I want to thank the wonderful people who have been contributing. I very much need your contributions. And if you'd like to contribute, you can contribute there as well. So we now have the Ukrainians being set up to align with China, viewing America and Russia as mortal existential enemies. And this was obviously the plan all along.
Foreign affairs, we appreciate it. We are very much interested to have the strong relations with the China, and we think it's time to arrange the meetings between our leaders. I think it's momentum. It's momentum because China can play important role in the peace process.
Will we see more meetings with you guys?
Foreign affairs, we appreciate it. We are very much interested.
So that was one of the bosses in Ukraine working with Zelenskyy to fulfill this good cop, bad cop script. Now China is the good cop for Ukraine and Western Europe, and Putin, Trump are the bad cop, whereas in America, MAGA is desperately trying to portray Trump and Putin as the good cop and Zelenskyy and Xi Jinping as the bad cops. There's an article about this that you can find online. Here's the URL: Yermak time for Zelenskyy, Jinping talks. Axer.az reports that this was stated by the head of the Ukrainian presidential office, Andrei Yermak. It's time to organize a meeting between Vladimir Zelenskyy and Chinese leader Xi Jinping. And people are entirely, they're as bad as I am. They're entirely oblivious to what is actually happening and how this is being engineered to establish globalism in the name of creating these three worlds of a supposed multipolar world, as that snake Alexander Dugin has been pitching since his book in 1997, Foundations of Geopolitics, where he said that Russia was going to take over Ukraine and subvert the West. Anatoly Golitsyn said that the whole fall of the Soviet Union was faked so that the Soviets could infiltrate the West, as they have done with Donald Trump. But again, there are much higher powers than this orchestrating all this. Putin is only successful because all the other leaders are puppet leaders who go along with it and ensure that Putin is successful, just the way Ukraine was completely sabotaged. Whereas if NATO had given them air superiority at a minimum, or if Polish troops had intervened in the war together with French troops and American troops, Russia would have been gone immediately. Turkey could have closed off the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles to Russian naval traffic. Turkey could have put their own navy in the Black Sea and utilized their air force and air bases to sink all the Russian ships together with America in the Black Sea. Crimea could have been wrestled back in to Ukraine. All the Russians could have been chased out of Donbass. The fact that even with this trickle of substandard weapons, that the Ukrainians have held them off for 3 years, NATO could have wiped them out in a couple of weeks. This is all theater, and Putin has only been able to engage in all of this because the West is completely sabotaged by the same powers that have sabotaged Russia and put Russia under the grip and control of the oligarchs. It's a myth that Putin got rid of the oligarchs, as I've explained over and over again. There's even a Wikipedia page, wouldn't you know it, on good cop, bad cop. I don't know how many people are familiar with it in this generation. I haven't heard it discussed too much, so we'll go over it a little bit. Good cop, bad cop, also informally called the Mutt and Jeff technique, how fitting, is a psychological tactic used in interrogation and negotiation, in which a team of two people take opposing approaches to the same subject. So we had Putin and Xi Jinping approaching the subject Zelenskyy. One interrogator adopts a hostile or accusatory demeanor, as did Vance and Trump, emphasizing threats of punishment, as did Trump and Vance, while the other adopts a more sympathetic demeanor, emphasizing reward in order to convince the subject to cooperate. It is an instance of the Reed technique. The bad cop takes an aggressive negative stance towards the subject, making blatant accusations, derogatory comments, threats, and in general, creating antipathy with the subject. This sets the stage for the good cop to act sympathetically, appearing supportive and understanding, and in general showing sympathy or even empathy for the subject. The good cop defends the subject from the bad cop. The subject may feel able to cooperate with the good cop, either out of trust or out of fear of the bad cop, and may then seek protection by the good cop and provide the information the interrogators are seeking. It's obvious that's what Trump is doing, not so much for the benefit of Zelenskyy, but for the audience of public opinion, so that this wedge is driven into the Western alliance. That treasonous, traitorous snake, Donald Trump, has now aligned himself with Russia, has opposed NATO, has opposed Ukraine, opposed the Western alliance, opposed Japan, opposed Taiwan, kissed Kim Jong-un's rear end, sucked up to China, allowed China to destroy us. Well, I won't discuss it because I don't want to get back in when he was in his first term with warp speed and all the rest. He did nothing to oppose the people who unleashed that on us. He is in bed with all these forces, and this staged routine is only theater for the benefit of public consumption, so that we all get lured into globalism in the name of multipolarity. Now, as I was saying, what they are following is the Maoist concept of the three worlds theory. But just as the fake fall of the Soviet Union supposedly ended the Cold War, they are now grouping all these people together into alliances which are theoretically opposed to one another, historically opposed to one another for sure, so that they can then fuse them all together through the agency of the international communism of Soviet Russia and Red China. So they want to split the West into two camps, opposing camps, one siding with Russia against China, one siding with China against the West and supposedly against Russia. But China and Russia are obviously part of the same international communist organization. And the communists are very willing to kill 50 million Russians. They were very willing to kill almost 100 million Chinese. And they're willing to kill everyone who has white skin like me, every European. They want to obliterate us first because that's the priority of their bosses, to instigate this new utopia they plan to build, this new paradise Garden of Eden they want to construct. Part of their mythology of how that has to come about is for us to be exterminated. But that creates a window of opportunity for us, because as they are crushing and mutually destroying one another, if we can preserve the best remnant of ourselves and have these people, instead of helping them to kill us off, creating our defenses against them, our united defenses against them, we can create the next generation of weapons of total destruction and save the world from all of this madness. So let's get into Mao's theory, three worlds theory. Maoism. Mao. The three worlds theory in the field of international relations posits the international system during the Cold War operated as three contradictory politico-economic worlds. And now they want it to be one world government, but they want us to kill us all off in the name of achieving that one world government. The first world comprises the Soviet Union and the United States, the two superpowers, which have now been melded by Trump and Putin. We now have the two greatest nuclear powers combined. That combined nuclear arsenal dwarfs China's nuclear arsenal. The nuclear arsenal of the United Kingdom is minuscule in comparison to that. I mean, relatively nothing. It's antiquated. It's obsolete. Its bombs are comparatively small. France is a little bit bigger, but still minuscule compared to that. India is nothing compared to that. Pakistan is nothing compared to that. And China is way behind. And we hear Trump advocating destroying the nuclear arsenal and allowing China to catch up and surpass us. This treasonous, traitorous snake is setting about to completely sabotage our nuclear arsenal and boost the Chinese. This is not a Republican-Democrat problem. Armand Hammer's protege, Al Gore, worked together, the Democrats worked together with Bill Clinton to give China sufficient nuclear technology to build up their nuclear weapons program. Israel gave China our missile technology. China would have none of that without the deliberate sabotage by the Democrats. And before that, the Soviet Union was given the thermonuclear weapons and atomic bomb weapons technology by Julius and Ethel Rosenberg and a whole cabal that betrayed America and gave that over to them. America could have been the only superpower had they not done that. And Obama, again, enabled China to build up its nuclear arsenal, to take over our country, to gain all kinds of advantages economically over us. And it was Obama who allowed Russia to move on Ukraine and to create the insurgency controlled by their special forces in southeastern Ukraine and to annex Crimea. The Democrats allowed all of that. This good cop, bad cop, it's all fake. They're all following the same script. They are all puppets on the strings of the same people. So the second world comprises Canada, Japan, and the countries of Europe. So now this American, Soviet superpower first world has been combined under the same ultimate forces. If it were actually combined under Europeans, it would be great, as I advocated in my book and in my blog for years. They should combine, because then they will have the nuclear arsenal that can dominate the world. But that nuclear arsenal is being used against the world and being used against Russia and the Europeans. Now, notice that Putin is attacking Canada, Japan, and Western Europe, the second world, what they refer to as the global north. So this has also been combined into one alliance, which is now at war with the first world of the Soviet Union aligned with the United States. They have now created the second world as an alliance of the global north at odds with America. They have taken away America from the global north and united it with Russia in the global north as part of the communist amalgamation, and created a wedge within the Western alliance and divided us and made us enemies of one another. The third world comprises China, India, two of the BRICS countries, and the countries of Africa, South Africa, another BRICS country, Latin America and the Caribbean, Brazil, another BRICS country, and all the other countries in the global south are aligning with BRICS, and the other countries of Asia. So BRICS represents the ultimate endgame, where Russia and China lead global communism in the name of multipolarity to subvert the West, divide us against each other, because a house divided cannot stand, pit us against each other, ultimately in warfare, so that they can conquer us. And Russia has now conquered America, not because Russia is a superior power, but because of the treason of Donald Trump, the Habadniks, and the people who are behind all of that. Let's call them the bankers. That's one of the euphemisms people use for them. Or the Zionists. And then they're portraying China as the Bolsheviks. And China is now in the process of roping in Western Europe, Canada, Japan to become enemies of the United States, because the United States has become their enemy through Donald Trump. We have to stop this. This is ultimately going to produce our extermination. So, to go over it once again so that it sinks in, they are playing the game of good cop, bad cop, and there's a complete inversion. And this is being scripted to split the West and pit it against itself. Now, from the eyes of America and Russia, Trump and Putin are being portrayed as the good cop. And Zelenskyy and Xi Jinping are being portrayed as the bad cop, at least in the eyes of Americans, and then only in the stupid, gullible eyes of MAGA and the libertarians and the influencer mafia that's well paid to betray us, those horrible people. It would be so great if we someday get a society where we can try some of these people. And from the perspective of the Western Europeans, the Canadians, the Japanese, the Ukrainians, they are now trying to portray Xi Jinping and Volodymyr Zelenskyy as the good cop and Trump and Putin as the bad cop. We saw that scripted performance, that bad cop performance of Vance and Trump hollering at Zelenskyy, trying to humiliate and abuse him and violently threatening him, falsely accusing him of criminal behavior and being a dictator, a gang leader, so to speak. And this is all theater. All these people are in on it. They know exactly what they're doing. It is not clever. It would not succeed unless they were all in on it. If America and Europe were united and strong and asserted their dominance, we could very easily crush China and Red China, Communist North Korea, and Soviet Russia in a very short period of time. But there's no will to do it because these people are all traitors against us. We need to exercise what I've been calling for in my plan for a new society, this intelligent morality, where the intelligent people have to separate from the gullible, stupid morons who are dragging us down ultimately to our own extinction. We need to unite and combine our intelligence and cause brain drain among these nations which they have converted into our existential enemies and create a new nation in which we have the capability of defending ourselves from all this. And then we can utilize methods of subterfuge and everything else to start to take control of public opinion in all the other nations and to start to fight against this campaign to exterminate us and expose all of these crimes being committed against us, all of this treason, subversion, this stage theater. But in order to do it, we're going to need military defenses. Only physical force can defend us ultimately because they are going to pit public opinion against us. They are going to instigate wars against us, as they always do to any group of people that tries to defend themselves from all of this. But we will have the advantage. It will be to our advantage that these people are always destructive, always corrupting everything, always pitting everyone against one another to destroy them. So we'll let them drag themselves down, benign neglect. We can't save them anyway. We will cause a brain drain to take away all the best people who are currently being utilized by them to destroy us and to develop the weapons and technologies to exterminate us, engaging in the political theater that sets us up for our own demise. We can have the brain drain, which is currently being utilized as a fifth column, as a Trojan horse of this enemy, and we can bring it into our fold, and we can use that talent, that intelligence, that brilliance, that creativeness to create this next generation of weapons of total destruction. And we can keep this dog off of us if we have that kind of ultimate deterrence. And then we will build ourselves up as they tear themselves down, and they will no longer have the benefit of our best people to sustain them, but we will have the benefit of our best people to not only sustain us as they crumble, but to build us and make us stronger and stronger and stronger. If you want to learn more about this plan, you can find my book, Intelligent Morality, at CJBBooks.com. If you go to the social media links that are on the bottom of that website page, you'll find an audio video version of that book that you can watch for free. I appreciate all your support. I desperately need you to continue to support. I have issues that I have to address well, I don't want to get too personal about all this, but I want to thank all the people who have kept me going I can do even more if you help more. And there are things that I have to address that I need your help with. And I'm grateful to you for it. I want to thank everyone for watching. Please go to my website, cjbbooks.com. And I will see all you good people next time. And thanks to everyone who has been sharing, retweeting, and linking to these video presentations and my books and my other work. Thank you all very much. Thank you so much. I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.